I do have this thing called the HDR buffer still. Okay, create texture render target. So the reason I'm looking that up is I'm going to want to make more render targets today, because last session we were doing this thing where I'm drawing this fog of war thing that selectively covers map area. Now, one thing I might want to do is make that nicer, and one way to make it nicer is, instead of drawing these squares into the main scene, I can draw them into an off-screen render target and then do some image processing effects, like a high-quality blur onto that render target, and then use that to map the scene with, and then you can do more interesting effects. So that's one thing I want to do, but also eagle-eyed viewers will notice that since the last time that I did a stream, I got rid of these blue borders that used to be on the sides of the screen covering up areas. Now, the problem with that, it's nicer because you get to see more of the map, which helps make the game more playable. The problem is that the game mechanics of this game are very much based on 6x6 squares. And right now, there's no way to tell really which 6x6 square you're in. And we thought about all kinds of heavy-handed ways of like dividing up the map or something, or visually designing the map so that you can see the divisions. But then I felt like, you know, for making future levels and stuff, it'll be better if we just have this idea of kind of a spotlight that follows you around. So whatever's the current room that you're in, that, you know, like when I pick up and drop these gems, those power things in the current room that you're in. Oh shoot, I forgot to do something. I'm gonna take a break in a second and do something. Anyway, no, I'll just remind myself to do it by the end of the stream. Where's my to-do here? Every project has a to-do in a different directory. This is an animation thing. Okay. Anyway, I just want to highlight what's the current room, so that it's clear to the player. And then, you know, the other rooms will get like sepia tone processed or something like that. That's all. And I'm going to do that today because that's an effect that we absolutely need. And then once that's in and we're successfully creating and using that render target, then that's only going to take one channel of that render target, right? Like we can do that in just the red channel or something. So then for the green channel or anything like that, we could do this fog thing. Or we could make it a separate render target, which might make more sense if we want the post processes to be very different, which we may well want. Okay, so in order to make this region zoning visible, or in order to be able to tell when it's working, I am going to want to get rid of the fog of war for now that we spent last time doing, because it just keeps me from seeing things. We'll bring that back later on, but we're going to comment that out for now. So I'm just going to go into draw fog of war, and I'm going to say return oh, we gotta get my Emacs mode going. Okay. Whoa. Oh, that's update fog of war. Sorry. We made it so that we never clear any of it, but we always draw it. Okay, there we go. So now we can see everything, which you may think of as a step backwards, but often we do this kind of thing to help us make progress on further stuff. Okay. I don't even remember. Was it underscore E? Was it dot Emacs? It won't tell me where tilde is. Okay, this looks like it has all that stuff in it. Oh, it's because there's that error. There's that error. So I have some old stuff that I don't ever use. Like, see where I'm CDing to places? I don't remember how to block comment. I just don't want any of this stuff. Oh, and there we're CDing to witness. All right. So if I control metax eval buffer. All right. Hey, we got it. All right. That's good. I didn't have to switch files. Yeah, I don't use very much Emacs functionality. There's a small amount of stuff that I do. I like, I use Windows side by side like this. When I'm in C++, I have a key bound that'll open the C file and the H file next to each other. I mean, obviously I use the very basic editing commands, but that's about it. The most fancy I get is that once every like 3 years I use dured mode to rename a bunch of files. So that's it. What is the state of concurrency parallelism in the language? The state is the same as it is in C, which is that you manually do whatever synchronization you want. And guess what? Most serious parallelism is still done that way. Like, everybody seems to think that there's some magic bullet for parallelism, but there isn't so far. I mean, I would like to find one, but there isn't. You can't, like all these things that people are trying to be fancy about just don't work. They don't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to implement compiler support for the basic stuff to help. But that's a little bit of a lower priority. We haven't done that yet. Like all these stuff that people do only helps when you're doing parallelism for noobs, right? When you're actually, which might be a valid application domain, but when you're actually trying to maximize the performance of your processor, you don't do anything that's amenable to these techniques. So like you're just writing, interlock, compare, exchanges all over the place. What do you do in Go? Well, channels don't help you there, or Go routines. What do you do in Rust? Well, you just put it all in an unsafe block. So yeah, I use Control K a lot, which deletes everything on the line to the right of the cursor. When I said my next game wouldn't be a puzzle game, I wasn't talking about this one. This one sort of came up opportunistically. Do I think it is wrong to study computer science to get a job rather than learning how computers really work? I don't know if I understand the question. Are you saying that you won't learn how computers really work if you study computer science? You will if you go to a good school and make sure you take the right classes, probably still. Not all computer science courses are bad. Or do you mean are you talking about motivation? Like, are you motivated to get a job or are you motivated to learn about computers? So you have to specify the question more. Coroutines are not that useful. They're only useful for script programming, which is fine, but again, that's not the kind of language this is. These are sprouted 100% whole grain wheat pretzel shells. Random thing found at Whole Foods. Wow, we're full of off-topic questions today. Oh, okay. So you're saying some people study computer science to get a job rather than to learn more about computers. Yeah, so my opinion about that is the following. It's slightly different than it used to be. If people are studying computer science to get a job because the reason they want to get a job is to provide a economically valuable benefit to society, then that's respectable, right? If the reason they're learning computers is to just kind of try to sneak in and exploit the system by making a lot of money for something that isn't that much work, then I don't respect that very much at all. Especially because right now we're in this epidemic of software getting worse and worse because people don't want to do that much work and they want to make the most money, right? There's all this free money out there. The free money and the terribleness of software are intimately connected, right? Because if you had to work hard to make the money, software that's bad would not survive, right? It would get outcompeted by software that's good. Instead, we have this situation where the first person outcompetes everybody else. Not always, because like Facebook was like the 19th social network or something, but often. You know, that's fine. But if you're actually interested in how computers work, you're probably going to be better than all those people in those other two categories anyway. So I always recommend being legit interested in computers. Does IndieFund demand that the developer attends conferences and sets up booths for the game? No. Why would we do that? Do I think this will become viable for web? It depends on what you mean. Web server things, I mean system level web server things. Like if you want to write a web server, then probably this is a good language for that. If you're trying to write random web-side, server-side scripty things that are being written by people who are not systems programmers, this probably isn't the right language for that. For client-side stuff, if it's a big application and you want to target WebAssembly and you're running something really huge in a browser, well, I don't recommend that, but this probably would be a good language for that, I guess. For smaller, quickier stuff, not really. What is your preferred solution for organizing asynchronous code? I don't know. I don't have a solution. It's something I want to try and figure out. Could an OS be written in this language? Yes, absolutely. That's That's the whole point. It's a systems language. It's not like, I mean, it's a problem because Go perverted the idea of a systems language. This is a systems language in the old sense, where you could write a system from the ground up in it. It's not true for Go. Well, if you went through a great deal of pain with Go, you might be able to. But it's certainly not, the standard idioms in Go, you wouldn't want to write an operating system that way. What if you do a worldpause.exe projection into a fog bitmap mask and sample with filtering, then maybe square the result? Well, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to eventually render the fog into a render target. And then we're probably going to sample that render target based on world space rather than just overlaying it as a bitmap like we are now, right? If that makes sense. Do I think Rust is a competitor? Yeah, a little bit. Rust is one of the few languages that has a really good reason to exist. I don't agree with them, but I respect the language philosophically because it's actually doing something, whereas most programming languages are just arbitrarily different. How do I foresee this comparing to Rust and Go for systems programming? I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't think Go is good for systems programming. Go is fine for a certain kind of application programming where you don't need to respond to things in real time. Rust is good when security is your paramount concern and you don't care that much about productivity because the compiler forces you to do everything in a very specific way that takes longer. That's exactly not the domain of games, right? In games, we care completely about productivity because the amount of effort that it takes to make a game is our number one problem, right? Security is like our number 374 problem. So Rust is not the right language for game type things because we badly need to make it easier to program games and to maintain those programs. We don't need to make them more secure, especially single player games, right? So, or more correct, right? Our problem is not, I mean, games definitely have bugs in them, but a lot of those bugs are not the kind of problem that Rust helps you with. Because the kind of problem that Rust helps you with is the kind that's also not that hard to find by other means, right? Like, oh no, there's a memory leak. Well, you just notice that. If it's a memory leak of any reasonable magnitude, you notice that in a soak test. And there are tools to tell you who leaked the memory, and it's fine, right? Null pointer dereference, well, those are very blatant crashes, and you'll find them relatively quickly. They're annoying, but you'll find them quickly. The problems that are real problems that are hard to debug are things on a higher algorithmic level, just about what your program is trying to do, and Rust isn't really going to help you with those things. So I don't foresee it as having enough benefit to be worth it for my application domain, but of course they're still working on the language and who knows where it's going to go. So, you know, that verdict could change eventually. I don't expect it to, but it could. If I could somehow make rad game tools kind of money from the language, would I do it? I would consider it. Rad game tools kind of money is a lot of money, bro. But mostly because I could do good stuff with that money, like make more games or whatever. Is this the first programming language I've written? No, it's like number 12. But this is the first serious one. Someone's saying Clang's dynamic analyzers will find all the bugs that Rust will find. That might be true. I haven't used them. I don't have much experience with them. I suspect it's not 100% true because part of what Rust does is forces you to structure your program in a certain way so that certain kinds of dependencies are unambiguous, whereas there's probably cases where just in a regular C++ program, you can't really tell who's supposed to have, responsibility over something or whatever. Like there's going to be some cases probably where the dynamic analyzers don't catch everything. But like I said, I think that's fine. I don't think they need to catch everything because it's a trade-off, right? So what I was trying to get at before, I think, because I was saying like, yeah, games have bugs, but they're not necessarily the kind that Rust gives you. But part of the reason games have bugs is because we're so under the gun just to get them done, right? Because there's so much work. It takes years and years to make games. So you could imagine that if we could make the game faster, we might feel comfortable spending more time debugging it, right? So these are all trade-offs, right? It's not like these are independent variables, right? Everything has an effect on everything else. And so when you say, hey, we're going to make a language that forces you to be more correct, it's like, okay, well, if I pay for that in the time it takes to figure out how to write code, and if I pay for that in compile time, every time I compile the program, you have to add up all that extra time over the life of the project and ensure that the amount of time you saved me is more than that, substantially more, and I doubt that that is true. I very much doubt that that is true. That's all. Can one do OOP? You can do OOP with anything, man. What was the biggest bug on the witness that took the longer time to figure out after release? It didn't really take us very long to figure out any post-release bugs. There was one, we had some problem with audio stuttering on AMD processors that we thought we fixed on a certain small number of supposedly fast desktop AMD processors only. We thought we fixed it, but we actually are still getting reports from people on a very specific small number of processors. So we just got a new computer with one of those, and we're still searching for that bug. I mean, it's a lower priority bug because it hasn't hit most of the people who try to play the game, but we would like to figure it out also for the next game using that engine. But so that's the kind of thing, like Rust isn't gonna tell you why a random AMD processor is running this code too slow. Like, that's just not in the domain of problems that it's meant to help with. But that's most of our problems, right? Most of our problems is trying to get the graphics to run fast enough, honestly. That's where most of the work goes. Yeah, the thing going on in chat is there's a very big difference between the Alan Kay definition of object-oriented programming and like the Bjarne Strostrup definition of object-oriented programming. So it's very easy to be talking at cross purposes on that. You don't like the way Witness iOS changes your screen's brightness and doesn't restore it when I switch out to other apps. Is there just no way to do that? Yeah, unfortunately, so here is the problem. By default, auto brightness is on in iOS, but auto brightness was not bright enough to make many of the indoor scenes in the game visible if you're playing the game during daytime. But iOS doesn't give us any way at application level to deal with that. Like, we can't read the brightness sensor and adjust our own gamma or anything like that, at least not as far as I know. So yeah, it's a little bit annoying, but that was our best solution, because if we didn't do that, then people would try to play the game and it was just unplayable if they were, especially because one of the first rooms near the start of the game is very dark. And if the auto brightness just puts the screen at a level where you can't see that room, then you can't really play the game, and it kind of sucks. So we had to avoid that. It's unfortunate, but that's the best thing that we figured out how to do. Any thoughts on small talk? It's not statically typed, so I'm not interested in it. Does the witness use Metal for rendering on iOS? Yes, it does, also on Mac. Okay, I'm going to actually, instead of questions for a while, let's do some work. We can do more questions later. I'm going to make a render target. And right now, I'm just going to hard code the screens. I'm going to just hard code everything, and we'll fix it later. So at startup, when we init OpenGL, I'm going to say spotlight buffer is create texture rendered target spotlight buffer width spotlight buffer height true. I don't remember what that true is. Let's see what it is. Do depth target false. Okay, let's just no. We don't want a depth target. Okay, so spotlight buffer width. We're just using it in this one game mode right now. We can make this more general. So there's 4x4 of those rooms, and there's 6x6 rooms. So now this would give us just 1 pixel in the bitmap per square in the game. But now we want to have some number of pixels per square. And I probably should specify, like you might think, is that a squared, like, or is it a linear measurement? And it's a linear measurement. I don't know. Let's not. Maybe I'll just comment it. So spotlight pixels per square is, well, let's see. If I make it 8, then the whole thing is 24 by 8, which is 100. It's about 200 and something pixels, which is still a very small image. Let's try that anyway. Okay, so spotlight buffer, we create a render target. I need to visit this buffer. There, now I have my highlighting again. Okay, so that's fine. Now, I have a debug draw mode. Let me show you the debug draw mode, because we're going to want this. I forget which function key it's bound to. F2, F3, F4, 5, 6, 7, 8, F8. So that's the shadow map. I might have programmed this way back in the shadow map stream that I never archived to YouTube because it sucked, because I spent too long debugging. But anyway, you can see that's the depth texture representing the shadow map. So in order to make sure that that this spotlight map is correct, I'm just going to, when I hit F8 and go into this mode, I'm going to draw it right next to the shadow map, right? So we'll just do that, and then we'll run the program and see what happens. I mean, it should be very boring, but it's a start. So in debug draw, well, let's make sure we compile already. Yeah, okay. So in debug draw, there's do draw shadow map. And we just set a margin All right. Wow, we really aren't, we're really just drawing it as a texture. We're not doing anything special. Okay. Set texture, diffuse texture, what did I call it? Spotlight buffer. And we'll just draw it at full size for now. We can probably draw it smaller later because, you know, it's... And then we're just going to draw another quad. Screw it, right? So mm is going to be m times 1.1. So we're just going to get a little bit of a margin between the two things. Okay, that didn't work. Oh, maybe... Okay, well, there it is. So we had blend turned on. We should probably turn off GL blend way at the top. So M, okay. I got my variables confused. There we go. So now the only issue is, hey, there's nothing in the texture. So now what I'm going to do is paint something into the texture. Just every frame. And what we're going to do is paint, well, we'll just go for it. We'll just paint the entire room around the player. We'll just do it all in one go, because why not? We'll probably mess something up. You know, sometimes I like taking really baby steps, and sometimes I like to just try and make bigger jumps. So, whatevs, man. All right, so the convention is going to be that, so right now we're not going to worry about writing different things in the different channels. It's just going to be, we're going to write white pixels for the whole thing. And we're going to do this in the ocean map file. Because remember how the fog of war sort of went in there? I think the ocean map is going to be the thing that handles spatial graphical effects for the level. That's kind of what it's turning into. Except, oh, that kind of went into draw fog of war. Yeah, I don't know. We're probably going to combine all this stuff later. Okay, so update spotlight. At some point, I could just put the current entity manager in the context, and then I wouldn't have to pass it as arguments everywhere. That'd be pretty good. Okay, so when we update the spotlight, we're going to get the ocean map. And we're going to get the active hero. Well, I don't know. This may not produce the right behavior when the guy dies, but whatever. Okay, we're updating the spotlight anyway. So we're going to set render target to, what was this thing even called? Spotlight buffer. We're going to GL clear color to black, which so far isn't going to do anything new because we started with a black texture. We clear the texture. Actually, let's just make sure that this is working, right? Draw game, view 3D. All right, we'll put it in draw game view 3D. We'll say update spotlight. This has some geo-clear stuff in it. So we update the spotlight. Oh, manager. So now it's a green texture. Hey, look, that worked. Great, it's Christmas. Okay. So now that we know this is working, we'll clear it to black. We'll clear it to red still. Why not? Now we want to find the room of the guy. Now we just wrote some code to do that elsewhere in this file that used some divs and some mods. So I'm just going to factor that out. Clear fog around player. Oh, it's not really enough to factor. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so screen I, and then offset I, offset J, and then I'm going to call this ocean again, because I'm going to say map. I often use map to refer to the current texture map, which is going to be spotlight map. If we didn't get a width on that for whatever reason, don't try to do anything. Okay. In fact, we won't even clear it. Well, all right. So we get our offset. Pos is guy.position. And now we want to draw a rectangle, and we have some procedures for doing that. Quad. Immediate quad. Okay. immediate begin, to say immediate begin, immediate flush, which actually issues the rendering command, and immediate quad, P0, P1, P2, P3, color, E32. Right, for now, let's do a float color. I need to cull some of these immediate quad overloads. There's not quite one. All right, we're fine. 8-bit. We're rocking the 8-bit. Okay, so I, of course, need my coordinates. Let's just say x0 is screen I times s times, remember this thing that we did. Yeah, it was here. Spotlight pixels per square. Right, capital S. And actually, let's say that so we've got this thing. We've got x0, y0. P0 is V2, x0, y0. P1 is x0 plus stride, P2 is stride. P3, spotlight map, spotlight render target. Spotlight buffer. Well, oh, that really didn't work. Insertion failed, line 723. Try to immediate flush when no shader was set. Let's set a shader. Set it down here. Okay, is that an error on my screen, or is there like one pixel that's kind of set? I can't see my cursor. That's my screen. Okay, so we obviously totally missed in some way. So first of all, we didn't set the transform. And second of all, we didn't divide these by the width, right? So we already know this is not 0 because we returned, so it's fine to divide by it. So this is inverse width is 1.0 over that. So I have this thing called, well, actually, if I do rendering 2D right-handed, I don't have to divide. If I do that after I set the render target. Wait, did I set the render target? Yeah. There we go. So there's a square around where I'm standing, and if I can see, I don't remember where my guy is. There it is. If I go north, oh, okay, well, we're flipped in Y, but so you can see how this white square is following me around. Sort of. You get what I'm saying, right? Let me flip. Okay. Wait, what? No, I accidentally, oh God. That's not right. U0, U1, oh, right. U3, U2. How did it not come out totally warped? Oh, because these are backwards too. Duh. Okay, this is where I should be. There we go. Okay. Okay, good. This is good action. Let's change the green. Okay. So now you see where this is going, hopefully. Now I want to make a shader where we possibly multiply this in. And I guess I'm going to do something really gross and put it in the standard shader and multiply everything by it, and we'll worry about optimization later. Does anyone have questions about what's been going on so far? I'll heat up some new tea water and we'll do questions. Questions? So this render target will be layered on top of the whole world, basically. Yes, we're going to do that part next. It'll be great. So if you used if not float var return, why isn't abs float var less than epsilon more appropriate? No, that was an integer variable anyway. It was, if you mean the width of a texture map is an integer. That said, I often don't use epsilons for floating point numbers because often you don't really care. So like, I mean, maybe you're talking about something that happened yesterday where, you know, one thing that might happen is you're editing the config file, you know, the variables file, like, you know, we have all these variables that you can tweak, right? And you want to be able to sort of edit this file without fear. But in reality, in the shipping game, we're going to know what these parameters are and they're fixed. So if we have any code that guards values of these parameters, it's really only for during development, right? And what's going to happen during development? Well, you might accidentally make one of these 0, or you might be trying 0 and not understand that it's something that gets divided. But someone's very, very, very unlikely to put something smaller than an epsilon in here. It's just not something we have to worry about. Now there is code where you do have to worry about epsilons, but not really any of the stuff that we're doing. Current compile speed, it's a little slower than it was, like I've been saying. I want to go around and do another optimization pass on the compiler. It's what generally happens. You know, you add features or you fix bugs and things get a little slower, and then you have to go nudge it faster, and then it gets slower and you have to nudge it faster. The reason some compilers get slow is because they just don't ever go do the nudge it faster part, which is very important. Do I have a plan to make a game engine like Unreal? Not like Unreal, but this is a game engine right here. I'm going back to some of the older questions. Do I still use the fixed function pipeline? Not for this game. When this game started, I was using fixed function, but it's just not really worth it, and it's not officially supported anymore. And then stuff like RenderDoc doesn't even support it anymore. So if you want to understand why the hell your graphics aren't showing up, you can't use RenderDoc anymore if you're fixed function. So this is all shaders. Am I finding this language to be more enjoyable than C++? Yes, tremendously. Tremendously. How far back do you reckon you'd be in programming Sokoban if you were still to be stuck in C or C++? Well, it depends. Right? I mean, my productivity on the game itself is much higher because I'm in this new language. However, I spent a lot of time working on the compiler, right? If instead of doing that, I had just made this game in C++, I'd probably be further than I am now. But I wouldn't have a new programming language to show for it. So, you know, there's trade-offs. Am I going to keep that format on the dynamic variables? What for? You mean these? Like, what's wrong with this format? It's good. It's simple. You can see what the things are. If this was something like JSON or XML, God forbid, it would be less readable. So, yeah, probably. Maybe his problem is that the numbers are floating out. I don't know what that means. The numbers are floating out. Okay, now I'm going to go into this shader called Skin 3D that we saw last time, and I'm just going to put this for everything, and for most game modes, we will, well, actually, we'll just leave it on all the time. And then later, for most game modes, we'll just make the spotlight texture all white, so we won't worry about things. How come people always end up talking about JavaScript in the chat? I don't get it. Okay. So we're going to have we're going to need a new texture. This is for the spotlight, but we do not if it yet. So we're going to need a spotlight texture, and we're going to need float du per world square, right? So du is like the amount in texture coordinates. It's basically 1 divided by the width of the texture. And we're going to, right now, we're just going to go into the fragment shader and we're going to multiply by the spotlight texture. So actually, convec2 spotlight UV? No. So I have this world position where I copy this in, and I think we're going to leave that for everybody. So for each vertex, we get a world position, and then those get interpolated in the fragment shader, right? I should fix that color scale versus scale color thing. That was so confusing last time. Okay, so we have a world position, and I'm going to say for now, I'm going to do this after I have the output color. We're going to want to do this later because we might actually do some tricks with lighting and stuff. But for the spotlight, we're going to say spotlight UV vec2 equals world position dot xy times what did I call it? du per world square hard-coded assumption of world corner is equal to origin. Okay, so we've got a spotlight UV. And now I'm going to say vec for spotlight color is, how do I do this in OpenGL? Texture 2D, spotlight, texture, spotlight UV. That samples the texture and gives us a color back. And now we're just going to say output color .xyz. So really, this would make everything else completely dark. Now, wow, I didn't realize I was doing this whole time. I don't know if I correctly invalidated all the dependencies. Let's see. Du per world square, undefined variable spotlight texture. All right. Du per world square. Oh, I didn't save it. Okay. Well, so now the main program is not setting either of those variables. So the only reason I can see anything is because a white texture, or it's probably a white texture, is bound by default. Or like that's what happens when you sample something that's not bound. So, when we go to draw and we say skin 3D, all right. This is where we just set stuff. So we're going to set a texture called spotlight texture, right? Not misspelled. And what's it called? And okay, and then I need to make a routine I've just been doing this GL get uniform location, and then, it's really annoying. What was it called? Common 3D. So I want to set du per world square. So I get the uniform location for that. Every frame, which is slow. In fact, every time we set the shader, which is hella slow, but we're optimizing this kind of thing later. We're not worrying about it. We're just making it work right now. So we get the location. If the location exists, then du per world square. I don't know. What's that going to do? Well, we're now totally red for some reason. That's pretty weird. Well, before I resort to like trying to figure out so if we're red, that means we're getting a texture that has 1 in the red channel and 0s in the other channels. It's kind of weird. Why don't we just assign to spotlight color.xyz? Why doesn't that work? Why does equal make it 0, but times equal gives us red? That doesn't make sense to me. Screw it. See, it's black. What? Oh, wait. Because we're in like HDR. I don't know. See, it's like claiming to be black. But then if I multiply, so there's like an ands in here or something. Not good. I don't really know. Did I get the name of the uniform right? I probably did, because I would have got an error otherwise, right? Did not see any problem. This is the fun of graphics programming. Yes, that's a GLSL shader. Well, what do? Do I download RenderDoc to figure out what's going on? Or do I just try to figure it out? Does anyone have an idea? If this were software rendering, I could just step through and figure out why the values aren't getting there, but it's not software rendering. Do I have the right map? It doesn't even matter if I have the right map or not. I do. I mean, unless it's being reset a little later. But like the results I'm getting from doing these operations in the shader are inconsistent with actual well-defined values being in the texture. But we're drawing the texture. Let's check this. I don't know, maybe that'll fire for some reason. It did. Oh, but I guess for some shaders, it might fire. Okay. Well, try to only do times instead of times equals. Why is that going to matter? Why? Who cares about that? I assume you mean here. I don't know why that matters. I'm going to download RenderDoc just in case, because I don't have it on this new machine. What is complete? Finish. We finished. All right, let's run it and see if it can help us. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. All right. I forget how to capture. Do we hit print screen? Well, let me go back to the shader and all right, so we've got our red. That's pretty weird. Print screen. There we go. No Dropbox. No. Software is so bad. All right, so we go here. Let's see what this has to tell us. Color pass 1. Frame start. I guess this must be our texture for the spotlight. Okay, how do I... Okay. So we're drawing stuff. We're drawing stuff. And our inputs, there's no input set. Why are there no input textures? How do I tell? How do I tell if this set texture succeeded? Oh, haha, because I've got this dumb hard-coded hack here, and I have to manually assign texture units for some reason. I need to clean this up at some point. Things don't work if I don't do this. I don't know why. So this is going to be spotlight texture. Okay. I forgot about that because it's such a weird hack. Oh. Okay, well, I mean, maybe. Let me go to the spotlight texture, rendering, and instead of, we'll give it a color again. Wait, where did I put this stuff? Oh, it's in Draw Fog of War, not Draw Ocean. Update Spotlight. So, we're going to clear it to gray. Okay, so we've kind of got this gray everywhere. Which probably means our texture coordinates are not very good. Hey, now it's magically bright. Now it's dark. Now it's bright. Oh, we need to set up the texture for wrapping first of all. How do I do that? We already do, supposedly. All right, so see, this is why graphics programming is terrible. Because there's just not a direct connection. I suppose I can try RenderDoc again, and this time verify that that shader parameter is fine. So let's do that. Okay, so texture viewer. Why do we still have no inputs? I don't understand. I thought it's supposed to show me. Oh, well, actually, I'm not in the right place. Oh, this is drawing the shadow map anyway. I was looking at the wrong thing. All right, this is drawing the color map. Duh. Okay, inputs, diffuse texture, shadow map texture, spotlight texture. This is what we want to see. This is much more like it. You know what? I bet I just have to flip the V coordinate in the spotlight texture. Well, although then it would never be right, I don't know. Let's see. Where do I look for this information? Vertex, this is a fragment shader attribute. Textures, samplers. Where do I find the variables? Where the hell are the variables like you're showing me for vertex input? Vertex. Does anyone know how I find that? Oh, wait. Uniforms, size 3 variables. Why doesn't it just list them? All right. du per world square, 0.00521. So times 200 and something, that'll be 1.0. So that's correct. That is the right value, approximately. Let's just try playing around with it in the shader. So for example, if I magnify this, then it should be a repeating texture. There we go, see? See? That's the square all over the place. Let's get more interactive here, so we can see what we're doing while we do it. Come on, Emacs, I'm just trying to drag the window. So, my theory is that because I'm like right-handed coordinates, no, that didn't do it. Well, so it's creeping its way up and to the right every time I do this. Like, do I need to invert the X as well? Huh? Hey! Well, no. Okay, so I went north and it went south. So the Y flip is obviously not right. There we go. There we go. So it's just not landing in the right place. For some reason. It's just escaping to the right. There it is on me if I get rid of the X. Times equals 6. How do I figure this out? Wait, I'm multiplying it. Okay, why don't I go to the bottom left corner of the map? That's often a way to simplify these things. Whoops, not there. So here, this corner is 0, 0. And if you look, I'm in the spotlight. Hey, look, I'm in the spotlight. Except the spotlight's like too big. Okay, apparently I forgot a factor. Okay, here's the thing. If I multiply it by 8, then it's exactly in the right place. See how it's a 6 by 6 rectangle? This is what I want. Okay, see how it's working now? So it's just off by a factor of 8. Sometimes monkey debugging is the best debugging. Oh, right, because I forgot the world squares computation, right? So remember, wait, is it in draw? So when I do this, it's not just the width, but, right, because that 200 and something is the number of squares. but there's more pixels than squares because of this. Where is it? Oh, it's in OpenGL. Because of this variable. All right. Let's go back into draw fog of war. We'll make K a lot smaller. Hey, there we go. We're here. We're there. We're there. Now another thing we should probably do is make these gradually fade up and down or something. But for now, there's like a spotlight following me around. That's kind of cool in it. I don't think it'll do the right thing for some of the other shaders yet. So like if I turn on this laser beam, oh wait, I have to get the other gem to turn on that laser beam. Yeah, but that might be cool. Or we can modify that shader later to do this. I don't know, now that I've done this for gameplay, it might be too confusing, honestly. I'm not rightly sure. We might have to do a different effect. We could use this same map to generate a different effect, for sure. Like this is the important part, that it works. The problem is because it looks like light, it gets confused with the lighting in the rest of the scene. So now we'll do something different. Oh, the character is totally out. Interesting. And the doors and stuff. I wonder why that is. We'll have to fix that. But so now we're going to use this for something different. I want to get some kind of all right. So back in the shader, how am I caps locked? Oh God, my control is a caps lock. I ran the wrong registry thing. Okay, skin 3D. We're gonna say, whoops, copy, paste. Color.y.z. Oh, you didn't like that for some reason. Assertion failed. We're supposed to keep running if a shader fails to compile, but oh, that's this. Oops. Okay, what was our shader problem? At sepia. Is that not how that works? Can I not do that? What the hell? Is that some kind of reserved word or something? Doubt it. That's SEP. What am I doing wrong? This is one of those things where there's got to be something very obvious on the screen, and I'm like, I don't know. Wait, which line number is it? Line 278. Oh, but that's after process. I didn't insert line directives. Oh, I need semicolons here. That's what's wrong. Okay, there we go. That's nice and classy. So now, instead of sepia toning the whole scene, we're going to say, I think it's called mix to lerp in OpenGL. Alpha color.xyz equals lerp, mix, output, sep, output color.xyz, spotlight color.r. There we go. I don't know, that's a little weird too. I don't know. Well, this is enough for us to like play with right now, and we'll sort of see. And then I think, you know, it might be time for me to do a break soon, or maybe I'll do some other stuff. But then in the next stream, what we do is we take the fog of war and put it in the same texture, and then we sample that in world space just like we're doing with this. Actually, the thing for me to figure out is why all these guys are wrong, and the obvious answer is that that world position variable is not actually world position. So I'm going to have to do something about that. It's like an object space position, actually. And the world mesh's object space is world space, so it works, but yeah. Maybe make sepia area darker. Sure. At least it doesn't totally look like lighting anymore. I don't know, man. It's a little bit... The fact that there's so much visual information outside it is confusing, but if we zoom in the camera a lot more, that's going to be confusing also. I don't know. It's our first experiment in this direction. You know, it might also be confusing because of all the sepia objects inside the area. So why don't I fix that bug? Sorry if you missed it, but why are the shadows gone? That's a good question too. The shadows are gone, probably because of some render state bug, like the texture. Well, it's probably the sampler that I used for the other thing. Wow, okay, we got all kinds of bugs. Let's do the textures first, because that bothers me. Or the shadows first. Why are the shadows gone? Okay, I'm going to make my little list of things to do. So, shadows are gone. Sepia objects in frame. And then other game modes, like these other ones, shouldn't have this happening. Press F8. Oh, yeah, okay. So some of the render state that we are setting up is getting reset for the shadow map rendering. Good point. When you have shadow map debugging, use it. Yeah, okay. So why is that getting screwed up? You may ask yourself, where did my shadow map go? So I bet that if I go to, what was it called? If I just comment this out, I bet the shadows come back. Yeah. Now we have shadows in a sepia tone world. This isn't a very good sepia tone, actually. It's too black and white. Like actual sepia tone is a little more amber than this. Oh, but it might be because those coefficients were like for LDR images, and we're doing an HDR gamma on this afterwards. I want a little more red in there. Do I square these or do I square root them? Okay, these are the original coefficients. I don't know. Wait, his is heavier on the green? I don't think of sepia toning as being very green, but whatever. Oh no, because we're putting the green into red. Gotcha. Gotcha. That's a little bit more. I don't know. I can, if I really want a quality version of it, I can trace it backward through the gamma. Okay, the whole point is we got our shadows back, so we got to figure out what render state was broken. And, well, it's not the render target, it's probably the transform. right? Or something else. You can always binary search the thing. Draw fog of war. So we're just going to comment out all that, see if we still have shadows. We do. So probably don't. All right. No, we do. All right. Is it the shader? Wait, now we just have shadows all the time. Now I'm very confused because now I'm very confused. Now I am. This is disturbing. Did I change something that fixed something? Or is this just a bug, a Heisenberg bug? I don't know. Let's make the sepia a little darker. I don't know, like the 3D cross-section of the edge of the area, maybe I just have to blur the area more. But like this thing on the left, it looks ugly and complex, is my problem with this. It looks ugly and complex. Maybe we just have to design all the screens not to be ugly and complex in that way. Maybe instead of changing the color of everything, we just draw a square around the floor. I don't frickin' know, man. I don't know. Okay. I'm going to put a star next to my shadows are gone bug because I don't know what's going on there. Okay, all these objects. Problem is, oh, this is like rest space position. Okay, so that still works. It's kind of funny having this effect on here. Okay. This would have fog of war over it initially, so it's fine. See, this doesn't look that messy and bad right here. This looks kind of clean. Because it's so rectangular, but the problem is we don't want our final things to have to be rectangular because we want them to look good. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You know, sometimes you're just experimenting, and it either works or it doesn't work. Okay, so we are here to now, we need to know the actual world space position. Do I have I do have an object to world. Right. Wait, why am I computing object to shadow map? Object to shadow map should happen after scanning. Right? Well, that broke something. Oh, because we transform, okay, yeah. I don't know, I'm a little confused by that. But that would only be wrong on the characters, so we're not going to worry about that yet. So we have bigger fish to fry. Okay. World position, object to world times position. Wow. Right. Oh, that didn't work. Really didn't work. I need to set the line number directives so that these line numbers are accurate. Huh. Okay, does someone else use world position? No. Although, because we started, maybe we started the run with a variable called world position. Let's not. All right. Program has not been linked. Index out of range. But we're not getting any problem in the actual program text. Am I not setting object to world? I must be, because I'm already using object to world. The object to world is being used there on the normals. Shaders, shaders. shaders. Shaders, aka I'm looking at a black screen. Shaders. Oh wait, world position. There we go. It just, either I was stupid and I wasn't seeing the error, or okay. The problem was just this makes a vec4, and I was trying to set a vec4 to be a vec3, right? So I've taken the XYZ of it. All right, so now my objects in the scene are not sepia anymore, as you can see. Oh, you know, we're off by half a square. So let's fix that. We're off by half a square in each dimension. Okay, that lines up more cleanly. That actually, it's a little better. It's still ugly with the complex geometry. I don't know. I don't know. Wait. Now we're off. We're off by 1 in X. Huh. My X went the wrong way. Did my Y go the wrong way? Yeah. All right, well, they're plus. I don't know why. There we go. Okay. I don't know, man. This, I don't think this is working all that well. But it is a thing. So now we only want to do this. Well, I could make a separate shader. But actually, I'm just going to be super stupid and do the following thing. If I don't remember if it's called name. No, you know what? Let's actually do this for real. If the map and map dot do spotlight, that's going to be a Boolean, and we'll set the other values because we're going to want to set the sizes and all that later. But for now, we're going to have a do spotlight version 9. Do spotlight is false by default. That's v9. And whoops, I did my same thing. All right. So now nobody is set to do spotlight, so we're all sepia. Oh wait, now these guys aren't sepia when they should be. Some objects are and some aren't. Okay, we're going to have to take a look at that. So that's still not right. But one thing at a time, let's go here. Pick our ocean map, select all, set do spotlight, save. There we go. Boom. But now if we go into this one, wait, why is that? Now I'm confused. Why is do spotlight set? Oh wait, that was the editor version. Ocean map, select all. That was weird. Well, I don't know why this is happening. Okay. Oh, because we're not saying correctly what happens when we don't do spotlight. Right, else I don't remember if I called it white texture or what, but generally I have a texture, yeah. Okay, here we go, this is all colorful. So we're just setting it to white. And these all have special spotlights, so that's good. Okay. So that's good. I'll check this in, and I'm going to warm up some more tea, and then I have to figure out why the following thing happens. Like, if I say spotlight color.r equals 0, so that everything's sepia. Oh wait, it does work. Oh, you know, that other bug was just that the shader wasn't saying what to do when not sepia, right? I think. It's all working. It's all working. Oops. If there are any questions about what happened there, go ahead and ask them, and when I come back with refreshed tea, we can discuss. Okay, questions, comments, ideas, whatever. Whatever. Before the witness release, you demoed it to journalists. Anyone discovered secret puzzles? What? I don't understand the question. Oh, that. Oh, we disabled those when we showed the game to journalists, yeah. But we also set it up so that it would be extremely unlikely to see them. Someone says, what was the UG hack thing? I don't remember which UG hack thing you mean. I assume that's a comment somewhere in the code, but I don't know what it is. Like if I drown it out this far, it still gives you some visual information. It's just the sides of the screen are not that interesting to look at now. And you know, the rocks stand out too much and stuff, but that's fixable. I don't know, this is at least playable. Doesn't like look that good yet, but maybe we could pull the camera in a little closer. I don't know how much that would help. Let's try pulling the camera in a little closer. Why isn't this working? Control L is supposed to work, yo. Oh! I'm having this bug. There's a bug that happens sometimes that I've been trying to track down where we don't respond to key maps correctly. And that is currently happening. So, oh, have I been compiling with LLVM? I don't think I have. X64. Damn it. So I won't have debug information. Well, restart. All right, so Control L. Oh. Okay, well, first, we're in an editing mode. So we don't want the editor to do that. All right, so oh yeah, cameras. Where's my camera control? Where is it? 6,5. It's like in the wall or something. Should be right. Oh, because it, oh, we got to fix that. All right. Anyway, up distance is 12.5, so we can pull this in a little bit, like 10. Let's make sure this is working. 3, that'll be ridiculously close. There we go. Okay. 10. Okay, this feels a little less weird. Let's do the south distance. 3. So we're a little more overhead. It's a little less crazy, but I'm not sure. Actually, I didn't think I would like the closer in camera, but I actually like it. It's just the shadow, the natural shadows from geometry and then this line are a little too confusing relative to each other. This is a drag. Could use window boxing. Well, the whole thing we're trying to do is let you see a little more of the map, and I mean, obviously we could just draw a thing. I don't know. I don't know that that's the best solution, but we could. I mean, we could just draw some walls around your room. We got to edit the basic run speed. Or walk speed. Very slow. All right, that way I know that it's actually working. All right. Whoop. Let me try backing off on the darkness of the sepia tone part. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Don't rightly know. My guess is that all the rooms are not just self-contained, so you can move things from one room to another. In that regard, does the vision affect the gameplay? The vision, there's a very important reason for the gameplay why we're trying to do this room thing. But maybe there's a better way to do it. Frankly, maybe this is just not the right way to do it. Maybe it has to be built into the geometry. I mean, I could blur it too, but I don't know. Blur is not my favorite thing in the world. I could inwards feather the edges of the spotlight box. Yeah, I mean, in general, my assumption, the whole reason I put it into our render target was so that we could do stuff like blur it and apply some texture to it and stuff. So definitely we want to make it look fancier. But before we try to make it look fancier, the basic thing to establish is this what we are doing at all? Or is it inappropriate? I don't know. I don't know. Is it not your favorite thing in the world because of performance or aesthetics? Mostly aesthetics. I don't like creating eye strain, and I feel like blur a lot of the time creates eye strain because people try to look at things and their eyes think that it's blurry because of a focus issue, and their eyes try to adjust and it doesn't work. Right? Like things in nature are not blurry naturally. There's very, 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 very rare occasions in which anything in nature is blurry. With the right art treatment, it could look fine. You are doing something similar to Civ. Maybe. I mean, they have a very different situation, though. Their scene is mostly two-dimensional, right? And that's what makes that work. So if you remember, when I went to the one that, like, this looks pretty clean right here. But it's because this is mostly two-dimensional and flat. Like, once you start making it 3D, it's going to be weird. Yeah, the design intent is just to make it very, very clear which room you're in. Because that matters for problem solving in this game. Which in this screenshot is great. In other ones, not so much. What if you squish it in the z-axis to make it look flat? Squish what, the whole map? We could design it to be flat if we want it to be flat, but we're trying to have the map look cool. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Maybe our shadows are too strong. That's possible for downstairs. All the blocks except the one where you're on. Oh, you mean like physically flatten the entire world? That would interfere with reading the map and problem solving, wouldn't it? I think. What if only the floor texture became highlighted? That is an option. It's not an option necessarily right this second because the floor texture is baked into the same mesh as all the rock walls. Although I could do like an if statement kind of a thing. Let's see. Let's see. If world position.z is less than 0.1, well, because then everything's going to have to be sepia toned, though. Right? Like if I make only the floor light up, everything else in the world is going to be drab, which is not a good look. And the alternative is that I don't sepia tone anything but the floor, but then I don't think that's going to provide enough visual distinction. You know what I'm saying? So one more thing I can do is when I zoom out into map view like that, I don't want the rest of the map to be fully sepia toned. So here's the tricky thing we're going to do for that. We're going to go into draw. No, we're going to go into draw fog of war, which is where we're actually drawing this. And this value is going to be our zoom value, and I just don't remember. Zoom current. I don't know if zoom is 1 when you're in or 0 when you're in. K is going to be 0.6 times camera dot zoom current. So we're mitigating how much? Whoop, there we go. That's not enough. I want maybe, let's try cutting that to 0.3. Okay, so I'm in here and there. So now we've got some color, but you can still, maybe we'll make it ODOT 2. Shoot. That's pretty good. Shoot. You don't even notice it happening, but it's just, when you're here, it's less muted. Yeah, the shadows really mess this up, honestly. Honestly. Well, do I control that on the sun object? Where's my sun object? My lister panel doesn't pop up now. Why not? Grr. I thought I had put these in places that were easy to spot. So there's one. Well, that's in between them both. When the editor just doesn't have enough features. So the sun is supposed to have a really obvious mesh. And I frankly am not seeing a really obvious mesh, and that's bothering me. It's there. (5) minus 10. There's something causing things not to show up. So that's at 610 minus 10. 6 minus 10. 5 minus 10 should be right there. Oh, because it's been so long since I used the editor. I have to click on this, of course, to see these. Duh. And the camera controls. All right. It's what happens when I make an editor work differently from the witness editor and then don't use it for a year. All right, so do we have... I think I can just turn up ambient brightness. That didn't work. Ten. It's not doing anything. All right. That must be not currently set to the shader. Can I edit it straight in the shader? Get sun shadow mask. Okay. diffuse dot. Diffuse factor is diffuse albedo. Where does T get used? Light output, T times diffuse color. Where does that come from? Oh, it's just one. All right. How about 10? That didn't change anything. Width and height must not be negative. I don't know what that was talking about. How is that not doing anything? Am I just throwing away this? Wait, what? This doesn't seem right to me, frankly. Whoa, that's bright. Okay, it's not recompiling its dependencies correctly. I have to save this. All right. This is having the opposite effect. Actually, none of this is really helping. It's been so long since I did the shadow programming. Okay, so the shadow mask is T. We're not doing particles. So light map sample. I don't remember if T equals 0 or T equals 1. Okay, that like brightened everything. It's so bright. Okay, wait. This is the diffuse response. Okay, light map. This is diffuse. So it's really sun brightness. Do I have a brightness value? Sun brightness. I don't think that's going to do anything. Oh, it did. But it's not really, I don't know. I'm not that bothered by it because the thing is you kind of want shadows to help define your look, and I'm a little worried that if I paste them out so that they're not that visible. I mean, I should get it under control and figure out how to tune that, but Yeah. Will the game always be this is not a first-person game. This is a top-down game. Still think this will work with the right art treatment. If it is textured for the lit area and flat color for the unlit area, that could work. If there is simply desaturated blue lighting for the unlit area and amber lighting for the play space, that could work. Yeah, I mean, maybe we just have to do a bunch of concepting to figure out how to make it work correctly. Have I ever considered having comments that work like asserts instead of halting the program? Comments that fail the assert just get put on a list of comments that may have fallen out of sync with the code. I would have to think about that. I mean, usually when you write a comment, it's not about something trivial, like the value of one variable. It's about like a complicated subject, like what's going on generally across the program relative to here. So I'm not sure what percentage of the time you could put an assert like that. But maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's a wacky enough idea that it's different enough from anything that I thought about that maybe I just haven't thought about that kind of thing enough to really know what it would be like. So maybe. It might be time for me to go take a break, get some real food. Maybe not. Could highlighting the edge of the room work rather than darkening the other rooms? Maybe. I'm not sure that that's... Maybe, I don't know. I think, yeah, we have to. We have to go back to the concept table and come up with some stuff. What is the most complicated part of creating an engine? It's just all the work you have to do, which is mostly about rendering graphics. Would dimming inaccessible tiles help the field? Maybe, but that's not really the point of this. The point of this is to define what the room is. And that matters. It matters that that corner up there is part of the room. Well, I don't know. I think it's time to take a stream break. There's certainly many other things that I could do on the to-do list, but those things are not related to this. So it's a good time to break. Each room is a box shape. How about drawing transparent squares at the wall part? Well, yeah, you can do that. The thing is, I mean, do you do that just in the exits or all the way around everywhere? If you do it just in the open squares, you might not define the box very well. If you do it all up and down along the 3D stuff, well, I don't know, maybe it's fine. I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, I'm going to think on it some more. Maybe we'll do another stream later tonight. Maybe not. I don't know. It depends on what kind of mood I'm in. We will see. Thanks for coming by, everybody. And I'll see you later.